This is Tessa Keogh again, and today's your lucky day, or perhaps unlucky, depending on how much you've had to hear my voice. This is our third Tuesday's tip, and it's coming to you again on a Saturday. And from now on, they will come to you on Tuesdays, but we wanted to clear up some of the confusion or some of the questions or comments that we got as a result of our April Hangout. So the third item that we're going to talk about is comments that other people got about our Legacy Virtual Users Group Hangout. All right, this was a comment that someone else got about our Hangout, and it was from Karen Kinnison, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, to Caroline Pointer. And the slightly amusing thing about this was Karen had a question about our Legacy Hangout, and she asked Caroline Pointer about it. And I thought it was great that Caroline answered her question for her, but I would have had no clue about this question or what Karen wanted because she did not include me in the conversation. And that's one of those things I think we forget to do sometimes. But if you have a question and you want the person that you're talking about to see it, you do need to use this little plus and their name, and that will bring it up as a link, but what it does is it shows me that you've referenced me in a comment or a question, and then that's in my stream and I can see it. I happened to be seeing Caroline Pointer anyway that evening online, and so she pointed this out to me, so I was able to take a look at it and address it. So Karen, your question was, you had a difficult time seeing the slides in the April presentation, and you didn't know if it was my slides that were a little bit fuzzy or if it was something with your computer. So I definitely see why you asked Caroline about it, because she's kind of a tech guru for us. And I realize that some people in their Hangouts have been able to really zoom in and focus on websites. And, you know, we've talked about making the screen smaller so that when we share the screen, we actually see it on a better level. And that has something to do with the magic of pixels. And so I'm familiar with what the issue is. And I just wanted to tell you a little bit about why that hasn't gotten all the way figured out in our Legacy Virtual Users Group. So it's kind of a tough question to tell you from the start of it, and that is because we make every attempt to check the visuals when we start our Hangouts, and we check with everyone who's watching in the Hangout to make sure that they can see the slides. And I ask that pretty much at the outset, and whoever the presenter is, they usually ask that question at the outset. And so when I asked that on Thursday, everyone who was in the Hangout could see the slides. I will also say that once you start working through your presentation, depending on if you're only doing the presentation and if someone else is monitoring it, it's a little bit easier. But if you're wearing all of the hats that day, it's really hard to keep track of the slide presentation, the speaker notes, and the Hangout room. And the only way I can really explain that is if on Thursday, I was behind the camera. I was also in front of the camera doing the presentation, and I was trying to watch it like you would be on a television station in the Hangout room. So it's real hard to be in three places at once. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to have a few more people who can be involved in helping to moderate or helping to do some of the camera work for us. It's a pretty simple thing to do the camera work. It's just difficult to do all three jobs. The other thing is that improvements are constantly being made at Google. When we started out, we didn't even have Hangouts on air. We just had Hangouts. So we put our slides on our site. Then it went to Hangouts on air, and we had to figure out what was the best way of presenting our slides, whether that's with Google or PowerPoint or going live and going to websites. And going live has its own issues because maybe the bandwidth isn't really good from the person who's presenting, or perhaps the bandwidth isn't all that great for some of the people watching. So we were trying to do something that was relatively clean, and we found that those were slides. But we also do go live at certain times. So we're aware that sometimes the the zooming isn't quite right, and we're working on that. And I know that Google is also working on it as well. And in fact, on Monday, we got a checklist that Ronnie Binzer put together as far as how to work from an event to a Hangout on Air to your presentation, and to make sure that everything was clear and worked together. And so I know we're going to be working with that checklist and paying closer attention to that in the future. So I hope that that helps. But one other thing I'd like to point out is that we are a volunteer group, the Legacy Virtual Users Group community. We're not affiliated with Legacy Family Tree. We're a group that works on this on our own. And we do spend a significant amount of time and effort to put together our presentations. So if you have not done a presentation before, I want to give you a little flavor of what's involved in it, not to scare you off, because we're going to have short presentations as well as longer ones. But you know, the way that this process comes about is that you decide on a topic, and then you review Legacy or whatever other features, and in April it was Google Plus and Google Plus Communities. You spend some time and effort grabbing screenshots for the slides and inserting notes with them, or maybe shapes, which could be the circles or the arrows or whatever, to kind of get your point across. You also write up a script or your notes, and for most people we do 1 or 2 walkthroughs to make sure that we've progressed from step A to step Z, and we really haven't left anything out, or we haven't leapt over certain things, so that it's pretty clear to most people who are watching our presentation what we're talking about. And then finally, on the day of the Hangout, we go live, and we're in the Hangout room a little bit early, and we're there after the fact, and then we pull the video down as soon as we've closed out the Hangout, and we spend some time working on either editing it a little bit, or putting the tags on in the description, and if there's any annotations or anything like that that we have to look at. And so it takes some time and effort, and I think it's probably just important to remember that people are volunteering, and we're trying to learn how best to use this television station that we have through Google and YouTube, and we would appreciate anybody, you know, volunteering and helping us work with it. And I thought I'd show you what I see when I'm editing the YouTube video. I go in as the video manager, and this is the picture I see. And so when we're looking at the thumbnails, you know, and if I were to focus on any of them individually, they're actually pretty clear because it's a webcam, and Google finds it much easier to focus on, you know, individual people. And I wanted to point out, I'm working in the video manager right now, but when you go into YouTube to watch a video, you can click on this settings button, and you can change the quality of the video if you want. And sometimes that makes it clearer for people. And this is the small screen view. And I would agree with you that if you're looking at this on the smallest screen that YouTube has, sometimes it's a little fuzzy or blurry. And we also do have to watch the amount of words we have on a page and the amount of images or pictures we have on. Because what Google is doing is it's operating with the webcam, and it's kind of like a camera, so it's focusing before it takes the picture, so to speak, and it's a constant moving picture. And so it's just that little moment where it comes into focus, and hopefully you don't see the entire video presentation that we do as blurry. But one thing that could help is you can also increase your screen. So this was the small screen, and this is the larger screen. And what that does is it increases the size of the screen and makes it a little larger for what you're looking at. Now, the other thing that I'd point out to you is a lot of times when I have something like I put an image of all of the guidelines on there, that was basically to show you where they were and to show you that there were guidelines. I wasn't expecting anyone to be able to read the guidelines from that slide. So some of these things, you know, I probably need to work on a better screen capture, but on other ones it's just to give you a flavor of what we're looking at. And for instance here, I'm showing you some other communities, and I actually think those are pretty clear when I'm talking about them what they are. And finally, like I said, the thing to keep in mind is that words and images depend on the size and the color scheme. And we've tried to work with, we have about 5 color schemes that we work with, and I am hoping that as Google works along and as we figure out some of the additional features, these will be even clearer. So I'm happy to share my slides. That was one of Karen's questions. I'm happy to put those on. That's a little bit of extra work. I'm going to have to go back and upload them to probably to the community so that you can see them, but I'm happy to do that. And we will continue to work with the zooming feature for clearer slides, certainly in preparation for the May Hangout. And in the meantime, we would love to have some more volunteers, whether you would like to present on a topic or maybe co-present, whether you'd like to be the moderator and kind of keep track of what's going on, or you'd like to help us out in the tech department as one of the cameramen. But I would also suggest that we have an attitude of gratitude. And I know this came up with Caroline Pointer, and I'm forgetting his last name, but his first name is Kenneth, in the Tech for Genealogy and Family History. It's great, I think, that so many people are willing to share their time and talent on Google Plus and at the communities and on YouTube. But I think everybody needs to keep in mind that a number of us are doing this kind of as a paying it forward because some other people volunteered in the past, and we enjoy doing it, but this is not our occupation. And so sometimes I think that we all need to keep in mind that this is a kind of a brave new world, and we're figuring out all of these things on YouTube and Google Plus just as you are. And I would also suggest that you don't assume that if something goes wrong that it's somebody else's fault. Maybe it's nobody's fault. Maybe it just happens. And the final thing I'd suggest is that if you have a question that something shows up a little wonky to you, one other thing you might want to do is just Google it. That's the third Tuesday's tip, and I hope that we're kind of all on the same page now for our Legacy Virtual Users Group Hangouts. We're thrilled to have all of you who've joined us in the last couple of weeks, and we look forward to some really great Hangouts in the future, and I'm hoping they're going to be even clearer. So we will see you next time, and we'll see you in between times, because watch on Tuesdays. It will be in the education section, which will be a new section. We're going to have Tuesday's tip every week. So all the best, and we'll see you next week.